Just to check, everybody can see. Okay, I think so. Yeah, so for this month, for the month of March, I think Google has went above our cost price, so we are in the green, and we're also thinking of further adding onto our position because after looking at the multiples, especially at EV over EBITDA averages, we found that the current valuation is actually below the 10-year average, which is around 12.5. So this discount is a good opportunity for us to add. I think, and also I think in last few weeks, Google also expanded on their cloud outreach efforts in Italy. So it further strengthens uh, the stronghold and the kinds of service that they can provide to the European region. So they also intend to expand to other parts of the world as well. So they are further strengthening their cloud business, which is good despite what's going on around the world right now. Yeah. Also, I think last week there was the Congress hearing about TikTok, but we think that it is still unlikely to that such there's effort like banning TikTok that happened to Huawei will happen lah. So yeah, so it will unlikely benefit YouTube Shorts in any way. Yeah, I think besides that, I think something that is interesting that's on everyone's mind was Bard, the release of Bard. So Google, they actually have two uh Lambda model chatbots. One is Bard and the other is actually called Sparrow, which is developed by their subsidiary DeepMind. So one thing that was recently reclassified was DeepMind. So DeepMind, uh, their main revenue comes from providing services to their other subsidiaries like Google Services, Clouds, and other bets. So this reclassification shows that it represents a shift towards the incorporation of AI into their very core operations, which I mean that's always the case lah. Yeah, so Bard and Sparrow is still Bard is in the early release stage. Sparrow hasn't been released at all yet. I don't think there's plans for that yet. Yeah, so one like on the ESG side, the governance aspect, we feel that Google has a strong advantage over others like Microsoft because I think one thing that the difference between Google searching and using a bot like ChatGPT is that when you do Google search, you can try to differentiate what's fake news and what's real. But when you use chatbot, you usually just take it for face value lah. So I think Google recognize that. So yeah, that's something that they are fighting right now. So yeah, so like looking at Microsoft's Bing chatbot recently, yeah, so it cited fake news from a satirical tweet saying that Bart shut down. Yeah, so that's something that could uh prove as a huge factor in the future lah. Yeah, so yeah, these are just some common things about Bart versus Sparrow. Then the big difference is Sparrow actually cites their references, so that's helpful for fighting misinformation in the future lah. So it's still a very early stage. This is also a factor that adds on to the valuation. So we are positive and bullish on Google's efforts in this aspect, and we are also looking to put a position into Alibaba as well. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, thanks, Chichang. So actually our group has been looking at Alibaba for quite some time. And I think recently Alibaba has actually retraced, from its highs of about $120 down to about 80 something dollars right now. So basically our team is looking at initiating an opposition into it. So we are currently working on a report. We'll submit it early next week. And yeah, we will definitely initiate the position before the end of the year. No, sorry, not before the end of the year, before the end of the month. Yeah. Yeah, this is just like some basic PA on the Baba stock, and I think we believe it's really undervalued at less than 10 times forward FY24 earnings, and less than 7 times EV EBITDA. Yeah, for one of the strongest Chinese e-commerce boom. And I think the tech regulation towards Chinese tech, has really come off quite a bit. Um, yeah, I think the delisting, the delisting drama, yeah, the entire delisting drama around Chinese names has also faded a lot. But actually, we see that the Chinese tech names are still lagging quite a bit. Yeah, so this is where we think there's probably some mispricing in it. Uh, let's say Baba is taking a loss of market share. We acknowledge that actually Baba has been losing market share to TDD. Um, but I think we also note that TDD probably operates in the cheaper end of the market, whereas Baba has like a how to say um focuses on like the wider spectrum of the market rather than just on the really low cost cheap end in like tier 3, tier 4 cities. Yeah, and on top of that, I think the most compelling part of Baba to us is really the valuation. It is the cheapest tech name, like big Chinese tech name out there, like on a PE and EV/EBITDA multiple basis. So yeah, and that's really why we are looking to Baba. And I think on top of like just playing to Baba, but I think it's also like a more of like a bet on the entire Chinese tech space. And we believe that betting on the cheapest name in the space probably gives us the most upside. Yeah. Yeah. Do you guys have any questions?
Does anyone have any other questions? So I think I have one question, just a quick one. So I think
Yeah, sure.
last month you said something about the YouTube Shorts, right? About they having maybe some decision to monetize it. What's the update on that? Do they still intend to do so, or?
Yeah, to update. I think last month we mentioned this.
Hmm.
So yeah, I think YouTube Shorts monetization is still at a very early stage. And if you are thinking on a long-term basis, the recycling of content in terms of how people just put the highlights of existing videos into shorts means this house recycling like the shorts is a funnel to those long form videos that will not generate new users. So the core aspect is YouTube have to refine their monetization efforts to properly incentivize new creators to get on the platform. And I think comparative to TikTok, YouTube has done well in the sense where they actually provide more the monetization of the short form videos is actually more lucrative on YouTube compared to TikTok. Yeah, but still, the shift will always be
Hmm.
something that needs time and to consistently like commit to their efforts lah. So it's it is something that is not confirmed, but is a positive trend for YouTube at the moment.
See, okay. Thanks. Well, maybe just one last question. So regarding Alphabet, right, what is the long-term growth that you guys are looking at? Because the Alphabet is like a giant company, and is it just AI itself? Like, is that the place that they intend to grow their moats, or?
Think not necessarily because I think Alphabet, as we know, is such a huge company lah. Like they have quite diversified revenues, and I think one of the big factors that they are investing into all these AI software like Bard and Sparrow is not only to rely on the cyclical nature of advertising, which is quite core to their operations for search advertising, stuff like that, but I think when it comes, I think a case study that we can see from OpenAI's monetization is that actually a lot of companies like Snap, they don't just use such ChatGPT for their own like they use these kinds of AI bots to supplement their features, uh part of the like Snapchat, they use their latest GPT software to create a new feature for users. But okay, I haven't tested the feature at all, so I don't have personal experience. But I think this is just a inkling of the future, like how all kinds of businesses will be able to incorporate such
Okay.
chatbots, into their own corporations.
So
Yeah.
it's mainly moving towards AI lah, from
uh like shifting towards not like this can complement their cloud business. So there's a lot of cross-selling involved, and a lot of the API stuff that can help develop for these developer tools.
yeah. I think that's all. Thanks, Jixiang. So I think without further ado, I think we can move on to group two. Before that,
Okay.
sorry, before that, at the end of the portfolio meeting, there will be a sharing by Kaila about Arisaig. So for those who are interested in the internship, you can contact Tiffany or persist later. So yeah, thanks, Grace. You may move on.
Thanks, Yang. Sorry if it's a bit noisy because I'm in a car right now. But so an update on our meta position is that as of the last closing, we are currently at 206 per share, which is good for our team because we invested at 217, and as you can see from the trend, Meta has been steadily rising. So now we're just in the red at about 5%, which is much more ideal than where we used to be. And we are still holding a long-term position on Meta as well. We believe that it will probably exceed the $217 that we paid initially as well. So basically an update on Meta is that 2023 has been deemed the year of efficiency for Meta because Zuckerberg is planning to lay off another 10,000 staff members. And so this would amount to 13% of the remaining workforce following last year's announced job cuts of 11,000. So I think a lot of the rise that we see in the stock price is also due to Wall Street's enthusiasm about Meta reducing their expenses. So as you can see, the year of efficiency is a term coined by Zuckerberg in a post that he made, and he also signaled a move to get more employees to return to the office, which was very different from what his mandate a year ago when they were trying to spread their employees and their offices across the globe. So I think now they are going to have a more hardline stance in terms of how they manage their management and team. So Meta lowered its estimates for their total expenses in 2023 to be in the range of 89 billion to 95 billion, down from its prior outlook of 94 billion to 100 billion. And Zuckerberg did say that Meta will be more proactive on cutting projects that aren't performing. So you can see how intensely they're looking at cutting their operating expenses because recently during COVID and a bit post-COVID, they've been inflicting a lot of expenses on their end. And I think everyone knows about the recent calls to ban TikTok in the States. So if TikTok is actually banned in the US, it's going to be good news for Meta because they're likely going to be the biggest winner alongside YouTube and Snap. And this is because users are expected to most likely go to Instagram Reels if they can't access their usual TikTok videos. And then just a quick update on SoFi. We haven't bought because so far the current price is still at 5.74 as of last closing. It's going to hit maybe our target lock-in share price at 5.45. And we're still sort of monitoring the market because I think it's quite an interesting time to be looking at bank stocks right now. So still holding out a little. So just some general updates about SoFi is that there hasn't been a lot of news on them per se, but they are intending to sue the federal government over the student loan policies that because they are affecting them. And this lawsuit is actually to limit the pause on people eligible for Biden's cancellation plan. Because the recent one that's been announced is about the 8th extension of this loan cancellation plan. But however, SoFi had been able to succeed even until now, even with student loan pauses over the past 2 years. So it's interesting to see why they are trying to come up with a lawsuit right now. But it's speculated as because the past 7 extensions have been more related to COVID issues, whereas this 8th extension is more of just trying to grant loan forgiveness as a whole. It's not really about COVID per se anymore. And this could potentially be detrimental to SoFi in terms of their PR, because people will tend to view them as a bank who doesn't care about their consumers. Yeah, so why should they deposit their money with them? So yeah, I think that's generally our updates for Team 2. Thank you.
Does anyone have any questions? If not, we can proceed on to Team 3.
Okay, yep. So this is our team update for this month. Currently slightly in the red, at negative 0.6% since inception. Yeah, so I think for our team, we'll go through like a couple of earnings today for Daco, Adobe, as well as GDS. So for Daco, they released their Q4 and full year results in early March, and full year revenue just under consensus, but the bottom line beat consensus by 1.9%. Yeah, so for the full year, the revenue growth was 175%, and this was driven by both the production volume increase and higher average selling price of polysilicon over the year. Then we also see that in 4Q, the net cash cost of production continued to trend downwards, and it kind of stabilized at around 6.8 USD per kg. And management commented that this will likely be a flat trend for the rest of the year. And for the average selling price, in 4Q, it was about $37 per kg, which was increase of 10% year over year. And besides the results, they also provided guidance for this full year, and they're expected to produce 190,000 to 195,000 metric tons of polysilicon, and that is about 50% increase year over year due to their new facility in Inner Mongolia ramping up production near the end of May. And based on management's commentary on the price trends, expected price trends for the next few quarters, the average selling price for this annum is expected to be above $20 per kg, which is good because that would have exceeded like the street's estimates based on current valuations. And then lastly, on the share buyback program, they have yet to deploy it, so 140 million will be deployed before April, and then the second tranche will come in after the dividends start flowing in from their Xinjiang operating subsidiary, probably in the May to June window. Yep, so similar to last year. And yeah, overall it's good results, and also good commentary on spot prices for the rest of this year, because the sharp decline in polysilicon spot price that bottomed out in January quickly rebounded in March, and yeah, this was due to like the seasonality annually in Q4, and also how the Lunar New Year period and the holiday season kind of coincided, right? Yeah, this year as well. Yeah. I think Pauline, you want to cover the Adobe?
Yeah, for Adobe, the main issue right now is about the antitrust scrutiny. It's always about the Figbar acquisition ever until now. So we are still monitoring this because as of now, they haven't exactly been sued yet. So they're still trying to negotiate with the regulator to see if they could try and get away from it. Yeah, so I think ultimately we need to see if they eventually do get sued, and if they get sued, by how much are they expected to be fined before deciding whether we want to consider selling the stock. But as of now, we are still going to hold on to it. And generally, the Q1 earnings that have just been released are all quite positive. So recently, Microsoft is embedding the PDF engine into their browser, so that's like one good news. And then their revenue also has been rising like 9% year over year. Generally also it's actually above analyst estimates. Like for instance, the digital media segment, which was what we were the most positive about when we first bought into Adobe, it also managed to increase up to 9%. So overall, we would say that the outlook for Adobe is still pretty positive. So the main issue that we're focusing on is the antitrust scrutiny. Yeah. Then the next slide on GDS. Yeah. So for GDS, the Q4 2022 results from last year just came out as well. So generally, it's also quite positive. So the total revenue also managed to increase quite significantly, and then EBITDA as well, and also the net customer commitments. So for this, the main issue that we're concerned about is with the debt financing. So they have been consistently increasing their debt financing like from last year as well. So like just this quarter, the most recent quarter last year, they actually increased like a 690 million from new debt financing and refinancing. So currently their market cap is around like 3 billion. So this is still a reasonable amount, but we'll continue to monitor this because if like the debt financing keeps on increasing, we're a bit concerned like how much it would affect like the risk for shareholders. Yeah, so and they're also continuing to intend to explore opportunities in Southeast Asia, which I think previously we also sold some shares because we're not so sure about this thesis because we originally bought it because of its establishment in China, how developed it is in China. So there's another area that we'll continue to monitor. Yeah, thank you. I'll pass back the time to Zingzhe.
Yeah, okay, yeah. So that's it for our portfolio update. Thanks.
Does anyone have any questions? Yeah, I have a question about Daco actually. So regarding like the ASPs, right? What is the driver essentially? Like, is it just like the uptake in new solar projects or the demand in the polysilicon? I don't know, like what's the main driver that you guys are looking at?
Will be supply side, as with most commodities. So yeah, because there'll be no new industrial expansion until the end of May, which Daco's new facility will come online. So that's why we see the spot price stabilizing around $30 per kg still after a sharp rebound. And then demand side is obviously the solar installation, utility scale solar installations, mainly from China. Yeah. But yeah,
Right, yeah.
basically to sustain the ASP above the historical throw of $10, right? It's basically the how fast the supply side expands.
Right, sorry, just to really understand more. So like the supply side, it's Daco is the one that is supplying this, or like those are commodities, are they purchasing from somewhere? Or do they have their own integrated supply chain to have
As
that
in
silicon and
Daco is one of few industry players that produce polysilicon. Yeah. So what I mean by supply side is basically the industry capacity for polysilicon. Yeah. So if
right.
like the industry capacity doesn't grow faster than demand, then yeah, the ASP should
All right.
should not plunge. Yeah.
So if ASPs fall, then would that hit the margins or
For Daco.
yeah, for Daco.
Yes, but it's not the marginal producer, right? So it's like the second lowest cost producer, and even if that happens, and it did happen in 2018, So Daco still had like net margins of around 10%, even at bottom polysilicon price. So we remain quite confident in its profitability, even if the worst case happens.
I see. Okay, yeah, I think that's all for my question. Does anyone have any other question? Thanks, Ting Zhe.
Okay, nice.
Not just to check, is Team 4 here?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. So this is the March 2023 update for Team 4. We have bought new shares in Daco New Energy. We bought 10 shares at $39.93 per unit. I think this is just a toehold at the moment. We might be increasing our position later on. So recent updates. To start with Unity, the financial year 2022 revenue grew 25% year-on-year, and up by 42% over the same period in the previous year. And this includes iron source revenue, and also exceeded revenue guidance in 4Q 2022. However, shares fell after conservative guidance from management for financial year 2023, especially relative to its competitors. And shares have lost 8% over the past month, lagging the computer and technology sector gain of 6% and the S&P 500's loss of 1.5%. We will continue to monitor upcoming earnings release. In terms of growth drivers, Unity is targeting to release a generative AI software for video game developers, which is leveraging on generative AI popularity that is we have all seen from ChatGPT. It has a resilient demand from client base of developers. It takes advantage from stabilization and forecasted recovery of advertisement market, and it is also a fast-growing market opportunity from considerable growth of non-core client base. So 30% of revenue in its create segment stems from industrial clients who utilize Unity software for services like creating digital replicas of their factories. Revenue from its industries portion has rose 118% in 2022. Therefore, it's our evaluation that in the long term, Unity is well positioned to be the primary real-time 3D content provider in gaming, as well as certain industries beyond gaming. In terms of the risk factors, we will highlight the slow organic growth and is as well as the growth fueled by acquisitions, which I believe may not be very sustainable. Coming to our new position in Daco, a recent update is that polysilicon prices has normalized as projected. Where this is a cautionary point, we believe in Daco's continued long-term potential, which is strong fundamentals. Notably, in February 2023, there is lower prices, which effectively stimulated market demand, and downstream production utilization rates quickly ramp up back to normal levels. There's meaningful recovery of polysilicon ASPs. And financial year 2022 revenue rose 175% year-on-year, and growth margin improved 8%, and profit tripled. And at the same time, there's announcement to give $1.1 million in dividends. In terms of growth drivers, we have continued belief in the company's strong long-term growth potential amid industry growth, and there's robust demand for solar PV products, and there's likely to return dominance by offsetting price drops through boosting production and cost advantages, and there's forecasted rebounding of polysilicon prices. So efficient and prudent capital allocation, increasing trend of both capital employed and ROCE. In terms of cautionary points, we would like to highlight that if polysilicon price never recover, in combination with forecasted production surge, this might further hurt prices. We need to further monitor if Daco can indeed sufficiently boost production in time to shield against this. That's all for our update.
Okay, thanks, Minxia. So does anyone have other questions?
Hi, Minxia, thank you for the presentation. Just a quick question. How does the team view the acquisition of Iron Source, considering that organic growth is now getting limited?
Sorry, considering it's getting what? I didn't hear the last bit.
More limited. Because you mentioned that organic growth is slowing down, right? And the growth is fueled through acquisition of Iron Source. Yeah.
Yes. I believe a brief response to this was that we did discuss about this in the previous updates. I believe the position we took is that this expands the business segment that Unity actually is involved in. Iron Source was involved in a segment of business that Unity previously had no operation in, and this sort of expanded their scope, and which we thought was a positive thing.
Got it. Okay, thank you. Does anyone else have any questions? Okay, if not, thank you, Team 4. Next up, we have a sharing session by Kaila on her internship experience. Maybe Kaila, you could share screen, or do you have any materials in specific?
Actually, sorry, I didn't have time to prepare slides.
Oh, okay, no worries. Yeah. So you could maybe just share how was your experience at Arisaig and how it could be beneficial for all of us.
Yeah, I actually have I have a few points prepared, so I can maybe talk about that. So I just wanted to keep this casual. So if you guys have any questions along the way, feel free to ask. Yeah. So how I structured it was chronologically. So first I wanted to talk about how the interview process was and maybe some tips on that. What I did during the internship and what can the internship be like for you. Yeah, so just some background. So Arisaig was my penultimate year internship, and it was a few months after the Next Gen ESG program. So in a way, I kind of saw it as an extension of that, but more hands-on. So when Arisaig first started recruitment, Gordon shared about the internship, and it was kind of like their first ESG-centric internship. So previously, their interns did more equity research based. Yeah. So so for the interview process, you kind of just apply by the normal route. So you submit a resume, cover letter. And I think for this, just be genuine about your interests and your strengths, because during the interview, they'll ask you deeper about what you wrote in your cover letter. You can ask Perlene more about this, but that's kind of what happened to me. And you'll only have one interview, but it can be really different from mine depending on what you mentioned that you're good at. And because it's an internship, not really a full-time position, and it's more ESG based, I don't think it's as technical as a full-time job interview. I don't think it's as technical as asking you all the DCF kind of stuff. So it's really your motivations behind applying, why you think you're a good fit for Arisaig, the culture that they have. I think we've all gotten the chance to meet them when they were teaching us during the program. So yeah, so just don't be afraid to showcase what you believe you're good at, whether it's ESG or more of the equity research side. Yeah. So for my internship, they only had one intern in Singapore and one intern in London. And we both started in July to around mid-August because they wanted us to start at the same time. And I heard this year it'll be more flexible. So if you want to go beyond the 6-week internship, they will probably be open to that. And especially if, let's say, you want to lean into more of the company research side, if you want to see like the whole investment process end to end, a longer internship would be more beneficial for you. Yeah. So so I started at the same time with another full-timer on the research team, and we spent like the first week just learning about the processes, which was very structured. I reported to Lillian, who's the director for impact and engagement. And when I started there, unfortunately, she had COVID, so I had the opportunity to meet the other people on the Asia team. Yeah, so they're all very nice, very open. Like you can ask anything you want, pretty much. You can share your opinions, and they would be open to that. Yeah, and there's not much tiers in the hierarchy, so you can just feel free to approach Gordon if he's in the office. Yeah, and they had a hybrid working arrangement, 3 days in the office and 2 days work from home. I'm not so sure if they still follow that arrangement. Yeah. So for the actual work, Arisaig does a lot of thematic research. So I mainly work on a biodiversity risk management piece and a gender engagement piece. Um, yeah, so if you've seen Arisaig's SRM checklist, like their sustainability risk management checklist, which they kind of shared during our program, it's already very comprehensive. So it was kind of difficult for me to expand much on it. Or the question was more of, are their exposures significant enough to make it worthwhile to expand the checklist? Yeah, so the research there felt more like the research you would see in school. So you read a lot of papers, you see how the banks manage their risks, but when it comes to the actual recommendations, I think that's where you can bounce off ideas of Lillian or the my other intern friend in London. Yeah. So gender engagement wise, it was already kind of in the process. So there were a lot of collaborators on it. I would talk to some of the people on the London side and Lillian as well. Yeah, so that's more of the high level stuff I did. But I have to say that the structure of your internship at Arisaig is really in your hands. Like Lillian would ask me if there's anything else I'd like to learn. And let's say with the Asia team, like the company research side, you can also join in to see what they're doing. Yeah, so at the time Lillian was also more on the ESG side, but she herself was trying to get into the actual equity research work. So it was fun because you get to learn from each other and learn from each other basically. Yeah, so there's always kind of something going around Ersig, and you'll definitely learn a lot as well. Yeah. Yeah, so Tiffany, I think you mentioned Rebecca is interning with them, so you can share more on that too.
Yeah, so Rebecca, she's actually based in Beijing, right? So she just started the internship with Arisaig remotely. But because the Arisaig team, they also have like quite a few investments in China, so they do travel to mainland China quite often. They couldn't because of COVID, but now that they can travel again, I think they will be in the country at least like 3-4 times a year. So with Rebecca's side, the the first week she started the internship, she already joined meetings with the companies. So I know she went to visit Haidilao and then had conversation with the management team and IR. And then I think similar to Kaila, she's also working on a thematic research report. But obviously it's more China and China consumer centric. She did mention that in China, when they are doing the due diligence, they will do kind of like some strange but creative ways of due diligence. So for example, like they will try to compare the different e-commerce platforms. So they will order the same item from Taobao, Jingdong, and Pinduoduo, and then they will compare like the delivery speed, and then like in terms of like after sales service and things like that, just to get a sense of like the consumer experience from end to end. And then I think they also try to order from like the different Waimai, because Meituan obviously is quite a hot stock as well. And then they order from like Meituan and then Ele.me and I don't know what. And then they will also like time, like the amount of time that's taken for the delivery man to actually deliver. And again, like compare like the after sales service, etc. So I think just based on what I heard from Rebecca, it seems there will be a lot of like very hands-on, very qualitative kind of research. Because I think when it comes to consumer companies, understanding the consumer behavior is really important, and you obviously can't find all that out just by sitting behind your desk. So I do think Arisaig will try to offer you a lot of experience of being on the ground and then getting to know your consumers, getting to know the companies, depending on your role. For Rebecca, they do offer her a full-time conversion if she does well for her internship. So I think generally Arisaig is really, really open to converting interns to full-time, because as you all know, Gordon started as an intern with Arisaig, and then he stayed on throughout. I don't know how many years really, but more than a decade. So he actually advanced from intern all the way until co-CEO today. So it's actually quite a part of like Arisaig's long-term culture, which is when they train talents, they want to develop that long-term relationship with you as well. In terms of interview process, I know for Rebecca, it was mainly an interview with Gordon. So I think she had like, oh no, actually Gordon and Russell. So she had like a 1 hour conversation with each of them. And then at that time, she happened to be back in Singapore during the winter holiday. So she also went to the Arisaig office for an interview. Not really interview person, but just meet everyone and talk to them. And then they just offered her the internship. I think basically anyone coming from Zack Club, the chance of you passing that interview is a lot higher, because obviously you have went through the program with Arisaig, and then they know you a lot better, and they do have a lot of confidence in the quality of our students. Anything else I want to add? No, I think that's pretty much how I learned from Rebecca. So I think it's a bit different from Kaila's experience, because she is purely on the equity research track and nothing ESG. But obviously she still has to work closely with the ESG team on that side of the assessment. But just as a comparison, even though you are from the ESG investing program, you are not obliged to only apply to be on the ESG track. I think they are, as Kaila said, pretty flexible in terms of how you want, and can offer a pretty tailored kind of experience. So yeah, so if you are interested to learn more about like Rebecca's experience, I think she'll be more than happy to chat as well. So just feel free. Yeah.
Okay, thanks Tiffany, thanks Kaila for sharing the experience. If you guys are interested, please do contact Sis or Tiffany, and they will probably let you know more about the details. So yeah, I think with that we can conclude our portfolio meeting. And
Yeah, just two
oh yeah,
quick reminders. So for all the portfolio managers and EPMs, do take note that the deadline for the minimum 50% capital allocation is nearing. It's on the 31st of March. And another thing is that before you all leave the call, do help to fill up the poll on our Telegram group on your status of the progress for the initial memo as well. Yeah, so that we get a sensing of where you guys are, and if at the same time you all need any assistance in terms of mentors, you all can approach us as well. Yeah. So Xia Yang, anything else to add?
no.
Okay,
Thank
yeah.
you.
So thanks guys. Just fill up the poll, and then you guys can leave the call. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.